Hey guys, welcome to the Color Me Mike podcast. So just a quick disclaimer up here at the top. Anything said during this podcast only reflects on me and or the guest. Sanity has nothing to do at all with anything that's being said here. Sanity is just a cool boba milk tea shop in Fremont, California that is kind enough to let us record the podcast here at their shop and kind enough to hook us up with some boba milk tea drinks. So everybody just chill and enjoy the episode. You know David Oldfelder? Did you get to meet him when we did that comedy competition a few weeks ago?
I know him by reputation, but I didn't get to meet him.
So he was the previous guest, and every now and then he would just look, towards the camera. So it's just you don't have to play towards the camera at all. It's just us talking.
I'm assuming it's similar to film.
Yeah,
don't look at the
some people get a little bit like, am I supposed to just talk over here? It doesn't matter. It's really just so it can go up on YouTube and people want to watch it. They can. Surprisingly, more people have been watching on YouTube than listening on Spotify or.
I've watched. Let's see. I watched Mean Dave, Ninja, Nina, and Jamar.
All of them, basically. Yeah. Thanks. Hey, thanks for being a viewer, dude.
It's a great setup. I'm glad I'm here. Plus I already know you personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of strange. I was thinking about it the other day because definitely you've become one of my. I would say a lot of people are my comedy comrades. They're definitely on my side, but you're like I consider you a friend.
Well, thanks, man.
At this point, we just.
Well, I met you at my first ever mic. So,
which one was that?
Pitt City.
Let me put that a little bit closer.
Yeah. You tell me. Closer? Fine.
So it can rotate like this. You're not going to break it. Yeah. Just bring on and just rotate it towards you.
Oh, literally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Yeah. You're not going to break it. It's meant to be adjusted and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think Pitt City was my first one.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
It's Pitt City seems like a different lifetime at this point, doesn't it?
Yeah. Are we filming right now?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
I didn't realize we started.
Yeah, no, that's
nice.
Because I enjoyed the podcast. I was talking to David about this. That they're literally just a hang.
Yeah.
That's why I love Joe Rogan's podcast. You feel like you're a fly on the wall in this conversation that he's having with someone else.
Yeah.
So I'm not big on formalities. I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like sort of so you've obviously seen me do sets. Thank you so much, sir. You see me do sets, and I really do try to write, but my style is really has been lending on the whole heart on my sleeve thing. I got in trouble recently because I got a little too fourth wall.
Oh, what happened?
Long story long. I had a contentious moment on stage, and I was trying to workshop through it. And I guess one of the golden rules of comedy is not to mention I guess it's called inside baseball or whatever. And I swear, right hand to whatever belief system you have. I was heartbroken about the situation, and I wanted to more learn how I could have been better about it. And I think I didn't name any names, but I got a little too personal, and I was taken to the side by a more senior comic, and they're like, if you want a future in this thing, that's not the way to go. And so I was like, they're like, either go to therapy and figure it out there, because I consider comedy in my own head I've been calling it the theater of the insane. When I started, this about me. When I started doing comedy, I was I knew 2 jokes. And then I was like, you guys want to hear a show tune? And that was my thing. And then it's you guys want to hear an Irish limerick or whatever? It didn't feel very real. And I don't want my comedy to come off like a therapy session or like an AA meeting. So I've been struggling because I'm the thing is, people tell me to find my voice, and my voice is I grew up in San Francisco, not the San Francisco that I recognize now, but sort of my own understanding. And I come from a 2-parent home, and I have 22 direct first cousins. I had love. I grew up with lots of comedy and music and all kinds of things. I think I just need to be a lot smarter, or at least, or figure, or take time to figure out what comedy is,
Well, what comedy is to you.
Yeah.
Anyway, right? I mean, we're all figuring it out. Yeah. I mean, I have to say though, Well, I guess first let's not. So it's
this thing?
David. It's the other one. There you go. Then lift that up. Like you can see how it's there you go. Yeah, it's okay.
There we go.
It's tough
that's
putting the
fancy.
straw in
That's
drinks,
fancy.
folks. Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks. I only make it look easy.
Yeah.
No, but let's get back to this situation that you're talking about. I'm really curious now. Did you do one of those things where you're basically airing out a personal grievance against a comic?
I don't think it was so much that. I just think, I think basically what I was trying to say is I love this life I've created for myself, and I want to be loved. I want to be accepted. How do I do that? And this is the way that, in my own hubris, I guess, is that the way is like, I know I'm wrong somehow. Please teach me. But the thing is that that's not what comedy is. Comedy is more, if you're going to be personal, it's personal. It's personal. It's letting people in, but also making it equatable and not making it a therapy session, I guess.
I guess I had to see it. I'm having a hard time seeing, what went so wrong that other comic had to go up to you and.
I mean, it was wrong. Like let's, like I said, I didn't name drop, but I was a little too specific. Let's just say that, like, I was like, this is the situation it was in. This is what happened. Because the funny thing is that there's a lot of misconceptions about me that, like, some people have been like, wow, you're not a very sensitive guy. You won't get this. And I'm extremely sensitive. Or like, oh, you're a jock, not a nerd. I'm like, no, I'm a huge nerd. Like, you know what I mean?
I didn't think you were a jock at all.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
just interesting. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, I mean, tall and whatever. Common misconceptions either way. But like, no, I'm a huge theater nerd. Like, like I think one of the things that I like to assume that I bring to comedy is like I can play harmonica or I can sing or I can do, voices and stuff. The thing I have to remember is that we're, in my own head, we're all still that 10-year-old trying to get our parents' attention, right? Or whatever, or a teacher, or like my family used to say, oh, our little comedian, right? And it was kind of a negative thing back then, but like I think I've been performing forever, my entire life,
Because, I mean, I have to say, the last time I saw you was Wednesday at Hometown Heroes, right?
Uh-huh.
I thought you had a great set.
Appreciate it.
That was probably, because I know you have been trying to get away from airing the personal grievances and doing actual material. And I thought that was the first time I saw you do actual material where it felt natural, because you admitted it yourself, when you were starting out, you would be very bitty about like, here's a performance for you. But on Wednesday, it didn't feel like that. It just felt like you were talking. Obviously, you had material, but and it hit great. That's why that woman bought you a drink afterwards. You got the lemon turned into lemonade. That was good, dude.
No, there was. It's funny. There was comments made about that too. And the funny thing is like, I have to disclaimer anybody who obviously
lower it just a little bit.
Sorry, good.
No, just lower it so it's not pointed at your eye, more so at your mouth. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm like, where do I put my hands? No, we're
you're just gonna do it like this.
Just gonna do it like that. My thing is that like I lean into what scares me.
Okay.
And comedy terrifies me because I've always had something to say or whatever. But in that specific situation, I still didn't have a plan. Someone heckled me. And I said, what's that? And then they repeated it. And I said, oh, can I do my set now, please? Like, and normally I would have been like, I'm sorry. Like I especially early on, I was very apologetic or what I would do is I would tell people what I was going to say before I said it. So I'd be like, oh, you're not going to like this because, and then I would just say that same thing. And then of course, when you tell people something already and like sort of like let them in already, like,
where's the surprise?
Yeah. And that's half the fun. But again, like, I was telling a family member this, I was like, I feel like I'm just a mental patient with a microphone most nights.
We all are.
Yeah.
Comics are damaged people, dude. And it's, that's what makes us funny. That's what also makes us have to go up there and do it. But it's a spectrum, not some people are more damaged than others.
Yeah.
But we're all damaged for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time now, I try to storytell or like make people laugh, and not do it for the wrong reasons. Like not do it just for attention, or not do it. Like I used to make this joke where I was like, if I make $1 million off of everyone who hurt me when I was 9, I win, and that's not a very healthy sort of thing to think about. What you should do is like the guy who, like, a perfect example is like, and again, I'm not Kobe Bryant. I may never be as good as a comedian as Kobe Bryant was a basketball player. But something interesting he said was whether his shoulder was busted up or his knee or whatever, he always showed up because some mom and pop busted their butts to work all week to take their kid to see him play. So in my head, I'm like, if I have something to say, if I have something to do, there's no reason why I shouldn't keep trying at this when I feel like this is my passion. And I can tell somebody who, like, having like a long-term sobriety, like, you can follow your dreams too. Like, your life doesn't have to end just because like, I thought my life was over when I was drinking and stuff, got sober, did the 9 to 5 forever. And I was like, man, I sure am miserable. And now I'm the happiest I've ever been. Even when I bomb, I'm like, but I'm doing what I love for once. Mm-hmm. And it may go nowhere. I may walk up to a mic tomorrow and go, okay, this was fun for 6 months, and be done. But every night where I'm honest and earnest and I have fun, which I've been instructed to, that's what it's about, it's great. Win, lose, or draw. Yeah. But when I get all egotistical and like, you're not laughing at my jokes, like, that's when I'm a jerk.
Are there a lot of people going up to you and trying to give you feedback and advice?
Yes.
That's interesting to me.
Well, because it could be
you're not asking for it. They're just coming up to you, hey man.
Sometimes I am, because here's the thing is, and this is full disclosure about me, is like I sort of illustrated, and sorry to your audience, I have a hard time expressing myself in different ways, but sometimes I am I'm not storytelling. I'm just bitching, and people are like, A, it's not funny, and B, like, what are you doing? Like, perfect example is like, one of the hardest things for me to talk about is like my dad's cancer, right? And so I had this whole thread about how, that's been for me. And that's the most vulnerable I've gotten on stage ever. And someone came up to me and said, if I were you, I'd tell it this way. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. Were you also there when I auditioned for such and such? And they're like, no. And I was like, then don't tell me how to tell this joke. And I realized I was a jerk in that moment because they were just trying to be constructive. But like, what I realized, weeks or months or however long later, is that like, that was my reaction of being like, I wasn't heard the way that I felt I should have been. And it's really just my own psychosis of crazy or whatever that,
Yeah, I understand that. But to be, to kind of play the other side and to be fair, giving someone feedback, on their stand-up, you don't need to just do that, to anyone. There's got to be some sort of established relationship there already. You can't people just can't be going up to every single comic, hey, here's what I think you should do.
Yeah.
So I think that all depends on who it's coming from too, and what your relationship is with that person.
Yeah.
There can't be no existing relationship or a bad relationship, and hey, let me tell you how to do your stand-up.
Right.
That's just, it's really not their place. Like, for instance, Newman gave me some feedback last week on some new bits I was working on, and to me, that's great. One, because I think Newman's a good comic. I think he's funny. Mm. But two, Newman and I are actually friends. So, that's...
He's a solid human for sure. Yeah.
So, of course, I'm going to be more open to it, to him giving me... But if, like, one of these... I'm not going to name any names, but there are comics out there who just plain suck. You know what? I am going to name someone. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, your career's over.
I'm not going to take their feedback. I was like, they don't even fucking talk to me. I'm not going to say that, though. They can try to give to me, but, I'll just go in one ear out the other. But, giving feedback, that's not something people should just do to anyone. There's got to be some sort of relationship there already. Or you got to be seeking it out.
I think I have one of, to be honest, to be fair, play devil's advocate. Like, I think I have one of those faces or one of those personalities because there's a lot of comics that do a solid 5. I keep hearing get a solid 5, have a solid 5, be a solid, however you want to put it. And my thing is like, when I started this, I was at a tail end of a relationship that I was not my best at. I was not at my best weight, not at my best health, not at my best mental space. I've clearly made great friends. I've learned a lot. And 6 nights out of 7, most weeks, I'm just plain having fun. And on the 7th, I'm an asshole. I get that. Like there's stuff that I need to work on. But in terms of that thing, people will come up to me, and it mostly is positive. But yeah, there are moments where it's like everyone is doing this for a different reason, right? Like ideally, yes, I would love to be the next Bill Burr. I sort of look like him in terms of I'm a bald white male, right? Nowhere near as ready, nowhere near as funny, nowhere near as whatever. Would that be fantastic? I had a close friend who was a touring comic, and he gave it up to start a family. And he basically was like, it's jokes, it's drugs, it's attention, and it's money on the road. Right? And it's like, well, I don't want drugs. I definitely want attention. I definitely want money. And like, it's nice to meet girls. Like, that sounds awesome. My point is that everybody's different. And now I honestly think that since I got sober way before I ever tried to get back into show business or whatever, open micness, let's say, because I'm not in show business, but I'd say 80 to 90% I'm in it for the right reasons. And there's moments where I'm just an ass or a jerk or whatever. Sorry if I'm not allowed to swear on this podcast.
No, say whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter,
I'm just a real dick sometimes, is because at the end of the day, I'm still, even though I haven't had a drink in nearly 9 years, I can still be a terrible alcoholic without drinking. Like a guy came up to me, I was checking on a friend who had too much to drink one night. They were in a group, some comics, some non-comics. Never met this person, not a comic. And the guy goes, "You want some cocaine?" I was like, "No, I'm good, thank you." He goes, "You'll never make it as a comic." And I was like, "What year do you think this is?"
What transition?
Like nobody wants coked out people. People want professionalism. They want good stuff. And I'm not even sure what they want in terms of jokes, but I'm pretty sure they don't want a troublemaker. And that's what I'm working on amongst all my other... Because AA is one great portion of my life. Don't get me wrong. I've met some great people, but I've also seen good people have one bad day and then they're just dead. Like, that's my reality. I think I've lost 12 friends to fentanyl alone. Right? And I never tried it. Like, the joke I like to make is like, people are like, "Oh, I love White Claw." And my sobriety's older than White Claw's existence. And I'm lucky. I was the absolute worst alcoholic. So the fact that I can walk and talk and make friends and date when I can and whatever, that's a miracle. So the rest is basically just, I guess, the extra, or it's like the cherry on top for me. So if I can learn to be a better human while having fun telling stupid stories, like, I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be,
Yeah, honestly, it just sounds like, man, you're working through a whole lot and you're trying to do stand-up. Because stand-up on its own is just such a tall mountain to climb. And then put on top of that everything you said that you're dealing with. It's a lot, man.
It can be, but like I said, I think that... That's the funny thing that as I learned, especially in early sobriety, is that it's great once you figure out basically, like I had someone I really love and trust in AA that said, I don't know if you're an alcoholic, but you're definitely somebody with problems who used alcohol as a solvent for those said things.
That makes sense.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they say in certain literature or whatever, like, it's a physical want or disease and a spiritual problem. And like, I grew up Irish Catholic in San Francisco, but never believed a single thing. Yeah,
that Irish Catholic upbringing is definitely going to cause some issues. Yeah.
And to sort of delve into what you're talking about, it's like, I'm not going to lie to your audience. I'm not going to lie to anybody who asks. I still have, every time I touch a mic, I'm looking for a fist fight in some way or another. Like either against myself or against someone who said it. Like I can't, like there are still people on this planet and in my comedy community who've never seen me get a laugh. And so I'm like, they don't think I'm funny. I better write better, work out longer, hydrate better, because I want people to think I'm funny and interesting. And I don't so much look for physical fights anymore, because that's so unhealthy. But in other words, I'm looking for that spiritual growth, or that ability to be like, look, see, I can sing and dance and whatever, you know, because like I'll be the first one to say I have plenty of stuff I got to work on, but you know.
So do all the other comics. Like I said, comics are damaged people. That's the mindset I came into it with. So it doesn't really, it doesn't stop me from getting annoyed at someone or even getting pissed off at other people's, behavior. But at the end of the day, it never really sticks with me too long, just because, comics are damaged people. I expected it to begin with. It's like dealing with actors that we talked about before. It's just that's the name of the game. And, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when you're a touring national headliner, what difference did all this bullshit make, at the beginning? And these people who are, being negative or being shitty to you, it's not going to matter in the long run.
Yeah,
if you have what it takes.
Yeah, and the funny thing is too, you bring up what I like to consider like being a humanist more than anything else is like, I don't know how you feel, but like I have like one thing I like to do is like if I meet a comic, I don't specifically have a photographic memory, but what I like to do is I like listening, like I'll sit and I'll listen to comedy all day and all night, and then I like to introduce myself to someone by the bit or whatever they do, right? So I'm like, oh, you're the guy that talks about Oreo cookies.
Well, it shows that you're paying attention.
Yeah, and I think that everybody, like perfect example is like I have a very close female friend who said, she put on her Tinder profile, she said, only requirement is be funny. And I was like,
bullshit.
I was like, I don't think I've honestly ever met a human being that hasn't at least said one funny thing. And she goes, you'd be surprised how many men aren't funny. And I was like, wow. And I wasted all this time, getting a job, getting sober, learning how to drive, like, and all I had to do was tell a joke.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise just seem to be really hilarious motherfuckers? Yeah.
And incredibly.
Yeah. It's all humor with them.
I still remember to this day, one of my favorite life stories of my own, if I may, is I sat my parents down. I was trying to come up with a good excuse to quit college, right?
Okay.
And so I sat down, and for context, I thought of a famous actor that quit school just to pursue acting. And I was like, well, Harrison Ford never finished college. He actually was a contractor or something like that.
Yeah, he was a carpenter.
Sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
Shout out Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Anyways, and my mom specifically said, well, that's great. Only problem is you don't have Harrison Ford's face. And I was like, oh, geez. And like Johnny Depp got off a bus in LA to be, a guitar player.
Yeah, musician.
And then met Nicolas Cage, and the rest is history. So there is some realism to all this. Like you can't, when we brought up earlier, like, people are like, hey, you should say this or say that. Like, it's very rare. Like Chappelle was 14 when he started?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I'm already behind the 8 ball in that sense, where I started at 31, 32, right? And now I'm 4 months in or whatever. But the thing is like, I love getting my ass kicked most nights. Like I love looking out in the crowd and seeing people like.
What do you love about that?
Well, it's like it's an ego boost, or not? Excuse me. It's not an ego boost. It's like when Michael Jordan said, so and so said I couldn't do this. I took that as a challenge, or I took that personally, and so I almost like make up similar to Michael Jordan. Again, not as good in any sense.
Oh yeah, when I look at you, I definitely think of Michael Jordan, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Now, where it's like I take a challenge and I think, it's like that person doesn't see me laugh or see me be funny or this situation. Because like I said, similar to sobriety, I find certain things in life I want to see as far as I can take it. And maybe it goes nowhere. Maybe in terms of comedy, the only thing I ever do is I do open mics for 10 years. But if I tell a story and I make friends, say I meet the love of my life, like things happen, like natural things happen, and I'm okay inside as a human being, and I'm not screaming at people about my problems anymore, that's a win.
Yeah.
And my hubris tells me that I have some talent to go somewhere and do some things. And I honestly, I hope I get there one day, but the more I realize is that I used to sit around and say, why are all my friends dead from drugs and why am I alive? You know, my good example is my buddy Danny. I wouldn't be surprised if he was alive. He'd already be on Netflix. He was that funny, at least to me. The simple fact of the matter is that the grips of life, the depression, the doldrums got to him. And another dear friend of mine said, when are you going to get out of this hole of what could have been for him and start to build what could be for you? And I was like, it never was even a conception to me until, and sometimes that's kind of how life is, right? It's like we think we know everything, or we think that one way is the only way, and then we meet some angel in some capacity, and they, you know, I mean, whether it's a wife, a husband, a partner, a teacher, a sibling, like somebody just cracks us over the head and is like, there's an easier, softer way than what you're doing. And once we find that sort of, for some it's a spiritual awakening, for others it's just life. Once you find that path, it's like, oh, I didn't have to, you know. But for most, I would think for most men, it's like, oh, why do I feel like shit? Oh, because I'm drinking all the time and I'm hungover, right? Why am I unemployable? Oh, because, you know, I'm doing coke all night. Like, whatever it is, you know.
I don't know. Obviously, I got into drinking in my 20s a lot, especially because I lived overseas by myself, you know, during those times, like 7 years. And alcohol's dirt cheap in the Philippines. So, you know, I enjoyed my 20s a lot. But as I've gotten older, I don't know, the desire for alcohol just kind of went away. And I'm just saying, like, I can have fun without it. There's no need. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely...
Lucky you.
Yeah. No, I mean...
Yeah.
You know, because I'm just I'm an easygoing guy to begin with, you know. And I'll have fun, but definitely with alcohol, I'm a happy drunk. I get really happy.
Yeah.
I get real physical with girls too. It's probably better that I don't drink in today's climate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just found I don't have the desire for it anymore. So it's just like I don't drink mushrooms. I'll do like, if I do drugs, it'll be more things like mushrooms or ayahuasca or DMT because I want that, you know, that spiritual journey. Like, I want to commune with the universe. I'm more curious about things like that. But getting high just for the sake of getting high, that's just not really my thing.
Yeah. Are you a believer in like a third eye meditation or like opening your?
No, but I don't disbelieve it either. I'm more agnostic. I've never experienced it. I'm not closed off to it. I meditated for a good like year and a half, like every day, 20 minutes, you know, and I feel like at that point I learned what I needed to learn from it, and what I learned from that honestly was just how to not let myself get down these thought spirals that just like that. Why am I even thinking about that? That's not even happening. You know, I'm just creating these scenarios in my mind where someone has wronged me, and I'm having this full-blown conversation as if that's actually happening. It's like that hasn't even happened at all. You know, so I learned what a waste of time and energy those kind of thoughts are. Yeah. And it doesn't mean I don't have them anymore, but I recognize it quicker. So I can put a stop to it earlier. It's like, why am I dreaming up these hypothetical scenarios where I'm getting revenge on someone and they never even wronged me to begin with? But it's just like, it's kind of like what you talk about when if you're bombing and you see that face like, oh, this guy. It's like, it's kind of like fuel for the fire, you know, and gets me revved up. So, all right, motherfucker, huh? That's what you think, huh? Well, yeah. So there's definitely, because I think when you grow up playing competitive sports, you actually need that. And, you know, that's the only way you're going to be able to compete, you know, out there. For me, it was basketball. That's the only way you can compete out there in the court. You need that kind of like anger and rage and fuel. Dude, if you're not out there to kill, you're not gonna prosper.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be a nice guy in the court. It's just it's the same thing with martial arts and fighting. You have to go in the mindset that you're gonna kill. And you know, in order to get yourself to that point where you can throw that switch, those are the kind of thoughts you need to have.
Yeah.
You know, I can't be like Mr. Nice Guy and be able to flick that switch and then now I'm there to kill. No, there needs to be something fueling that desire to kill. Well, this is gonna come off really great. Me talking about the desire to kill.
I couldn't agree more because, like I said, I brought up earlier, is like that leaning into that fear or anxiety. One of my problems is, so I probably only sleep about 4 hours a night.
Whew, not good, man.
Well, there's a reason behind that. So obviously I have glasses, and something I have yet to talk about it on stage is I basically died from a concussion. I was a tree trimmer, and I had a really nasty fall, and I lost a serious amount of my vision.
Yeah, 45 feet, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was just a terrible accident, and for about 6 to 8 months, light, sound, like basically someone would rev a chainsaw, and I would get the most brutal headaches. Ooh. And I would have every once in a while I have night terrors. I mean, actually, one night you asked me, you're like, "Are you okay, man?" You're like pacing back and forth. Like, I still have panic attacks every once in a while.
So that's what that was.
Yeah, full blown. And now I can sort of like, I have some mantras and I have some things. And weirdly enough, some nights when that happens, I do the best I've ever done. But that's just sort of my own mental stuff. But sort of like piggybacking on what you're talking about is like, yeah, flipping that switch is like, the funny thing is that I worry about flipping that switch when I'm not on stage. Because I could be a sweetheart and be like, let me talk about my first girlfriend, or let me talk about my first this or that or whatever. And then one thing could go a little bit awry, and one person off stage could make a joke, and I have to remember not that I don't know if it's Zen, I don't know if it's spiritual, I'm not allowed to freak out like that. I need to, that's why I do third eye meditation. That's why I try to breathe, because somebody might say something to me, and it's funny. Like, it's probably funny to a normal thinking person, but I go, "What did you say to me?" And I just tense up, and they're like, "Dude, we're friends. Like, calm down," you know? But yeah, because I played sports all throughout high school, and I played a pickup game the other day, just pick up basketball. And yeah, like, I have 40-year-old buddies that are throwing elbows and throwing screens. I'm like, guys, we're on a grammar school court. Like, let's calm down. And it was great because I got to breathe. I got to sweat. We're all masked up and stuff. So luckily none of us have COVID. But I don't know if that aggression ever goes away. I think it's all about, at least for me, it's all about figuring out how to positively use it, as opposed, because every time I try to just shove it down and act like it's not there, that's when I struggle the most, you know?
Yeah, I mean, how old are you, Seamus?
32.
32. I would say, let me tell you from my age-old wisdom here, 41 years old, that's something that you, as time goes on, especially because you're doing all the right things, you're meditating, you're aware of it, it's just, you start learning where to pick your fights and battles, Yeah. It's just one of those things. Like you said, it never does go away, because when you play sports, or you fight martial arts, like I said, it's just required. You have to have that in order to compete. But you start being able to recognize when it's not useful, when it's just not worth it, and you start being able to, even when you recognize it, sometimes you just still can't help it. Like, I know I'm not supposed to do it, but here we go. It's like, yeah, but you're able to, more times than not, you're able to actually, okay, fuck it, that's not worth it.
Yeah.
But, because for me, it wasn't really just because of sports that developed it, but it's just because growing up Asian, we were just brought up to be non-confrontational, right? That's like one of the stereotypes about Asians. You let everyone walk over you. And so I had to go so far in the other direction to really combat that nature of being an Asian that I ended up taking it too far.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, I gotta pull that back a little bit now. I gotta do it in its right time and place. But most of the times it's really not worth getting into a conflict over. like I was telling you, because we were talking about how comics, they're good people. There's a lot of shitty people in the community too, right? And I ran into someone who I think I told you where it was at an open mic. This person had brought their kid with them, and the kid was
I remember
playing
this,
a game on their cell phone. It was really loud. It was in the back where other comics were, and there were some audience members too.
Yeah.
And so I went up to this comic who was prepping for their set. You know, they had their camera up front by the mic, and I asked this person, "Hey, could you get your kid to turn their cell phone down? You know, it's really loud." And that person just looked at me. "Well, can you hear it up here?" No. It's like, oh, this person's an asshole. Okay, it's like, and whereas maybe at 31, I would have just gone at it with her right then and there.
Right.
I revealed it's a woman. But yeah, I'll be like, "Hey, listen, bitch, you're
Jeez. Yeah.
we can't hear it up here, but there's people back there too. Be fucking respectful and get your son to turn his somebody." It's like at that point, I knew she wasn't going to stick around that long anyway. I've seen her. She usually takes off, like a set or two after hers.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'll just let cooler heads prevail. She's not going to stick around. And like, fuck it. And now I know, I got a little inside peep into what this person is like. And I know I was okay. I'll just keep her at arm's distance.
It's funny. One of the things I like to do, especially like when I work out, is I like to put on the background. I like to either play, my standard Spotify playlist, or I like to put on like sports radio, right? And there's this guy, Colin Coward. He's got the show called The Herd. And
you like that guy, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, some of his takes are ridiculous, but he said something interesting that has always stuck with me. He said, you become more of what you already are when money gets involved. If you're charitable, you're more charitable. If you're an asshole, you're more of an asshole. And it's something that's really stuck in my head and ingrained now, because the more attention, the more we get booked, the more money. It's like, who are you at your core? Who are you? Because like you said, everybody's, whatever. Everybody's trying to be whatever. But I've grown up with some people that have some ties to show business, and like their grandparents, their parents, their cousins, their friends, or whatever. And celebrity marriages can be tragic and all this stuff. And it's like, because we are who we are, but like when we're given that rope, I mean, we can go in a million different directions. And that's why I brought up, I'm glad that I'm sober, because if I was still doing half the shit I was doing plus drinking, oh my God, I mean, I'd probably be fighting comics.
Yeah, I can see that.
Physically fighting. And again, there's all stuff that I have to like get better at. But it's such I've had many instances where, that I don't even know what rap song it is, but it's like, sit down, be humble. And I'm like, be a humble person. And then someone isn't humble to me. And I'm like, I just clench up. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, this is, like you said, it's all about, is it worth it? What's the old saying? Like, is it kind? Is it important? Is it whatever?
Is there a saying like that?
I'm a big paraphraser. I don't know. I hear what I try to remember what I can with my rattled brain. But basically, I just try to, and again, I'm not very good at it, but I really try to focus and hone in on just the idea of like, or it's almost like, okay, so someone cuts you off in traffic. It's easy to be like, asshole, mother effer, blah, blah, blah. But like somebody once said to me, you ever think that maybe their wife left them that day, or their baby's in the hospital, or like, we never really know what's going on with people. And it's so easy for us to just clench that fit. Like I always tell people like I could probably punch through straight steel with my right hand just by just the sheer centrifugal force of anger I put in my right hand, because I'm right-handed, right?
That's how angry you get, huh?
Yeah, because here's the thing is I grew up with learning disabilities, right? And I literally couldn't use my left hand when I was a kid. Like I couldn't. Like I'd be like, when I'd be dribbling a basketball, I'd be like this, and they're like, just force him left. He can't go. He can't use his left for anything, right? And some things change, some things don't, or whatever. But like, and it's like it takes so much energy to do this and so much less energy to do that.
Oh, I like that. So for the people who are listening, he's saying it takes so much energy to clench up your fists, and it takes so much less energy to let your fists go. And I like that. Yeah. It's very Zen Buddhism.
Well, and that's the thing is that like again, like, you brought up a good point about your young, crazy youth, right? Like you got sick of drinking. You got sick of that feeling. Like I was forced to, like the way that my life was going, I was going to sit in a cell for the rest of my life or be dead or have killed someone because of, and yeah, I can blame it on Irish roots. I can blame it on depression. I can blame it on anything. But at the end of the day, someone took a chance on me and said, dude, this is it. And then I told myself, this may be my rock bottom, but I don't want to find out. Mm-hmm. So I just assume it was because in order to, you know.
Well, to be fair, it's not that I got sick of drinking. It was just a weird natural evolution where I just found.
You didn't have that.
Yeah, I didn't have that desire anymore as I got older. And to me, it's like I'm just not the kind of person that I'm gonna do something just because I think I'm supposed to, like because of social norms, or if other people are drinking, I feel like, oh, I should give in to peer pressure and drink and have fun. And it's like, no, I don't need. I've worked really hard on becoming the kind of person that doesn't give in to peer pressure or style pressures like that. It's like I've worked very hard to become my own person, and it doesn't really matter what other people think. And that doesn't mean that I don't get hurt if people don't think well of me or things like that, but I just, at the end of the day, it will just rub off me. And
it's funny, I will say that for all or most of the comics I know, like you have said you've bombed, but like you, like seeing your natural gift on stage, like you might not have everybody's constant attention, but I don't think I've ever seen you like clear out a room because of something you've said. You know what I mean?
No, I've never just like flat out bombed.
Yeah,
like that. Well,
because I definitely have, and you have definitely been there for 75% of them. But
I don't know. I think there was that one time in Swinging Door where Iman grilled me afterwards publicly. He basically flogged me in front of everyone. That might have been. I don't know, that might have been a legit book, because the thing is, like, open mics really don't count, because there's like 99% comics. There's just too many factors going on, you can't really gauge your material, and if no one's laughing, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not funny, your material doesn't work. It's just either comics are working on their own stuff, if they're even listening at all, or if they're even in a room at all. It's just like, this way, open mics, they don't really affect my ego as much in terms of being a comic, because you don't expect to kill that. It's not if in front of an actual audience. That's where you're gonna see what you're actually made of in terms of comedy wise. I definitely have never bombed in front of the audience. I've done just okay, that's for sure. Where I haven't killed, or I've done maybe I would say mediocre. I would still get laughs, but it definitely didn't hurt hard. But I don't think I've ever just flat out failed and got nothing.
See, what's funny is, and that's what I appreciate about you, besides your brutal honesty, is like, I kind of am jealous of how you're like, well, yeah, like my ego tells me that I have to be the best, not in the world, but the best I can be every single time. Whether I don't think, I used to think that like I was a conduit of God when it came to AA and stuff, but like in terms of my own jokes and stuff like this, like maybe it's my own sick need for attention, but like every room I walk into, I just feel like it's so funny. It's like whether there's 100 people in the room, which I've yet to experience, but that theory, or one, especially if it's a comic who's smarter than I am, like I get that little, I'm like, yes. Because
when they laugh at your stuff.
Yeah, because I didn't get that growing up, and I, full disclosure, I actually sat down with my parents last week, and they're like, "Here we go," and I was like, "This is what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'll go back to plumbing. I'll go back to lifting heavy stuff if I have to support what I want to do. But all I need from you is to tell me that you support me, that you whatever." And that's what I thought. And then when they flat out said to me, "We don't," I was like, oh, so I can go to Kezar Stadium in San Francisco and say you can fit 10,000. I don't know how many people I can fit. And I can tell 100 jokes and none of them can laugh. And I can feel like dog shit about myself, but I will feel better in that moment than I do right now. And the funny thing is part of the reason I started this, admittedly, is I wanted their approval and I'm never going to get it. And that's okay. And then ever since that moment, and the other thing that I brought up of like the contention, it's like, if I just tell the truth, I'm not going to be everybody's favorite, but at least I'm going to be original. Like, I can bomb so bad and be like, okay, that wasn't funny. And like my ego's hurt or my feelings are hurt, but I tell the truth. Or I do really well and I feel great for a week. Because you know this. Like, say you go to 5 mics a night. Like, say that, what would you say your record is for most?
In a week?
Or a week or a night, like, or just in general?
A night is 3.
3. So say you go to 3. You bomb the first 2. You feel like shit for 3 hours. You wait and you wait and you wait and you wait. You get to that 3rd. You do well. You're like, this was a successful night. Or vice versa, or however you want to play it. At least that's how I feel. Like I've been guest hosting recently, and I've been awful, and it feels amazing because I know I know I'm supposed to suck for once. I know I'm supposed to be like, hey guys, I've got a voice and a joke for you, right? And it doesn't land, and it feels so good because it's like, I'm doing something that so and such and them and they and those would never try. And it's not working. So the day, if knock on whatever, belief on whatever, that it works and it hits, I might finally feel like I'm special.
I think that's...
Or I'm crazy and that's
No,
just
I
wasting
mean,
my time.
I know what you're talking about, because even when you're failing, you're pursuing something that actually is important to you, that gives you purpose. Each failure brings you a little bit closer. At least you're failing at something that you enjoy and you're passionate about versus just getting by on something that's completely safe and you have no interest in.
Yeah.
In the long term, all these failures are building towards something that's actually meaningful and purposeful, and that's going to make you happy in the long run. Happy's it's not...
It's a relative term.
It's a relative term, but it's also not... It's such a fleeting state anyway to say you're happy. Things change so quickly. You could be happy during the day, then someone cuts you off in traffic or
Freak out,
get into a fight with your girlfriend. All of a sudden, you're not happy, right? It's never a constant state. But overall, you're in a good mood more than not. Yeah. Let's just say that, right?
I would say that's like the spiritual goal, because you bring up a good point. Like when I was in the plumbers union, I literally a little fun fact about me: I can't do basic math. Like I don't have, that's just not part of my brain. How I passed the basic math portion to even get in the plumbers union, I'll never know. Long story long, I'm literally mopping the floor. I washed all the trucks. I did all the things. And this guy goes, hey asshole, we're not paying you $70,000 a year to use a mop, right? And in that moment, I walked into my foreman's office, said, this guy's got a point. I don't belong here. And they're like, are you crazy? You're making more money than you've ever made in your life. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not happy. Then I went back to the tree thing, fell on my head. That sucked. I did other jobs, and then I started doing comedy, started doing voiceover work. I do my own podcast. You're nice enough to let me do this. And I'm like, oh, this is fun. And like, either I'm going to fall on my face and this isn't what I'm meant to do, or somewhere, somehow, I'm going to hit something. Like there's kids that are opening boxes for $1 million on YouTube. Like we live in a really weird world. Like I'm not going to go up to Odell Beckham Jr. and be like, hey, sorry your knee blew out, like, or whatever. But like athletes don't make any sense to me because I don't have their shared experience. Like I loved football. I wasn't good enough to pursue it for the pros. But what if I was and I was sitting at home like, oh, I guess I'll be an accountant. Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, athletes, bodybuilders, they have a hard time when their career's over. Because their sport, they're such a big part of who they are, and they've never known anything else, especially athletes. You think about it, right? Probably from the time they're 9, 10, that's all they've known and dedicated their lives to. And all of a sudden, whether it's through injury or, they just retire, it's taken away from them. They have a hard time finding who they are and moving on.
Absolutely.
At that point. And that's why, do you know who Dorian Yates is?
I'm unfamiliar.
Bodybuilder, 6-time Mr. Olympia.
Nope.
There's this great YouTube documentary about him. But that's what I really appreciate about him the most is he was able to take that bodybuilder identity after he retired and put it to the side and find a new, find out who he really is beyond the bodybuilding and, find, what his identity is. Because a lot of those people, they don't they just stick in that bodybuilding. They just hang on to it with everything they can. It's like they're not able to move past that and find a new life. And he was. So I have a lot of respect for that because it takes a whole lot of honesty. Like, hey, that part of my life is over. I need to move on to something else.
Right.
And part of me identifies with it because, my joints, fell apart because, I'm 41, but I put a lot of wear and tear on my body, and I was a big, more martial arts guy, and I have to accept to a certain part, and that part of my life is over. I got no cartilage on my knee, left shoulder's falling apart.
Jesus.
Already, yeah. It's like, that part of my life is over. It was a huge part of my life. So I think there's growth in accepting like those kind of realities and not really clinging onto it. And you got to find something else to live for and other things to what's the word I'm looking for? Other reasons to get up in the morning, or other outlets, that still fulfill you or still fill that part of your soul that you just need to do that.
Yeah.
You gotta, and it's kind of weird because, we're both chasing our dreams.
Right.
But like you said earlier, there is a certain amount of practicality, pragmatism that has to be applied to.
Sure.
So I don't. What do you think? I mean, am I making any sense at all?
No, I think you're kind of hitting the sort of nail on the head or whatever. Is like in all things, in all facets, we do have things that drive us, and we have things that drive us crazy, and we have things that are parts of our soul, or parts of or makes us. And and you bring up the athlete, like there is an expiration date, but like. The really interesting thing about what we're trying to do is I always tell people we're trying to be funny on purpose. Like take a moment that you have with your wife, right? Say you never did comedy in your life, and there's some and in respect to your relationship, I've never been married. So I don't know that close intimacy, but you and your wife might have one specific thing that makes you. And it's hilarious. And a brother or a sister or a parent or a friend or a neighbor's like, I don't get it. But you guys do. And it's like the most elemental and most whatever. And it's what makes your love. I kind of think in a weird way, if we're lucky as comics or as performers or show business, if we can take that same concept that could be, like Jerry Seinfeld's almost like the perfect example. Where he does like what's the deal with airplane food? And it's like, holy shit, I've thought of it, I've felt it, and he couldn't be more right. And it just brings us all to the same place.
Yeah, I mean, that is what they do say about comedians, right? As the comedian says out loud what everyone else is thinking. Right? Yeah, I mean, I think if you're able to hit on a bit like that, that's spectacular. Yeah, you really, like you said, you basically, you've gotten to the kernel of truth about something that everyone thinks, but no one has ever actually said it out loud. And here you are saying it out loud, and it's funny.
Yeah.
I kind of, that's what I thought I was doing with, my whole bit about breaking down the Asian racism, how it actually works. But
I actually love that, by the way.
Yeah, no, it works great. But recently I've come to realize, like, all Asian comics talk about this, it seems like. Because I don't like, recently I've run into more Asian comics at shows and comics. Like, all the Asians seem to talk about Asian racism, how Asians really just hate each other. It's like, it's not quite as unique as I thought it was. Obviously, I mean, my take on it is unique in the way I break it down, but it's like, it's not quite as, I don't know, it took a little bit of the luster away from that bit for me, because like here I was thinking I was so unique with this take or perspective. It's like, oh no, every fucking Asian talks about it. Every Asian comic has the whole self-hating Asians things. I hate Asians. So I mean, obviously everyone does it in a very different manner.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's like, it just kind of opened my eyes. Like, but I think this is just part of when you're starting out.
Yeah.
These are the things you're going to talk about.
You speak what you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And the adverse to that is actually interesting is that, again, another jealousy I have of yours is like the way that you weave that I guess because you have a stronger identity, like in terms of your race. Because the funny thing is like, and you, like I said, I mentioned like I'd be like, "Hi, does everyone want to hear a limerick?" And it's like I'm American Irish, and I just it felt racist towards what
Actual
I sort
Irish.
of am.
Yeah.
And it's very hokey. Like I do this thing, or I try to do this thing where like not so much now, but most hosts for a long time were like, "This is really exciting. This next guy's the whitest guy you know," and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I guess, like I'd rather talk about video games and I almost felt like I was disappointing people if I didn't lean in on that. And I guess part of it is like one of the things I talk about is like how like all the cool Irish kids got to play rugby and Irish soccer. My parents put me in Irish dance. Like I don't really necessarily fit anywhere. Like I can kind of lean in and like learn about this and have something in each area, but like I don't really fit into any box, or if I do, I haven't found it yet, especially on stage. So whenever like one thing I've been thinking of doing is literally just because I can do voices and I can't like accents and stuff, is just mess with people and just like literally like what I want to do, or my thought is like I just go up to somewhere I've never been, right? And I'm just like, and I just go like lean into like old English, and I'm just like, oh yes, so where I'm from is bad, and just like do a whole, because like I have the Shakespeare background, I have the theater background, so I just think it would be hilarious. And then some people would be like, why is Seamus doing a British accent? It's just he's like a mumbly, lazy Irish guy. Why, but I think it's a fun challenge because that's what I've done with voice acting before. It's just weird voices that.
Well, I mean, you said 4 months in, right?
Yeah, about that.
So I'm 5 months in at this point. We're figuring it out.
Which is great because if people, I mean, obviously people who watch this have seen you. Like, there's this. It's funny, like. There's people that are clearly arrogant on stage, and then there's someone like yourself who you can tell you work on your material, and B, it's not look at me, it's you ever think, or like you have, it's like, that song, like it's not gonna, maybe it makes sense, maybe it won't. That song like The Girl from Ipanema, like dun 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 dun, like you have this like swagger about you that's not arrogance or asshole. It's like
I'm like elevator music. What's going on here?
No, it's like it's like I like this guy. I like how he talks about his wife. I like about how he talks about his race. I like how he like. I could see him working out in a gym. Like you're kind of like the everyman, like the most interesting man in the world sort of thing. I don't know.
I don't know because I can only be me, so I don't know. I'll take your word for it. That's
you're
awesome.
definitely not elevator. You're boring, dude.
Yeah, because that song gets played a lot in elevators.
No, but you see what I mean? Where it's like you have an ease to you, where it's just like I can't explain how Barry Bonds swings a bat. He just does it, and it's awesome. He hits it 500 feet. So when your jokes land and go 500 feet and you hit a home run, it's like, that makes sense.
You know what I will say is this is something I've said before in previous episodes of this podcast. I really feel like starting, when I was 40 is actually an advantage in terms of comfort in front of the mic and in terms of, knowing what my voice is. Because I know who I am at this point. There's no question about it. It makes it easier to develop material too, because partly because of the life I live too. I lived a life where I've gone out and had adventures, and I really questioned myself a lot. You spend 7 years overseas by yourself. You're gonna do a lot of soul searching and growing, and then being a filmmaker, videographer for the past 10 years now, focusing on telling stories, and really the past 2 years when I was still doing the videography thing, and really focusing on trying to figure out, well, what's my strength? What am I actually good at? How can I separate myself from the pack? That's just, really getting to know who you are. And I just having done all that introspection work before doing stand-up, it just made it so much easier. I know what my take is, so the way, like, you just give me a topic and I'll know how to attack it just because I know what my perspective is. I know what my humor is.
That's self-awareness.
Yeah. So it's an advantage. It's obviously not an advantage career-wise starting so late, but I feel like in terms of the craft, it's for me. I've found it to be an advantage.
You mean in terms of like because?
It's because time's not on your side.
Oh, because the Hollywood effect or whatever?
Not just Hollywood effect, but it's just in general. Starting any career when you're older, 40, you just don't have as much time as you would if you started 20, you know?
Yeah.
To actually, build towards making it.
Yeah, no, I agree. But on the adverse side of that, I'm sure there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are okay. So like, I don't all the time, but sometimes I like watching WWE, right? Because like I've always loved wrestling. Fun. Some of the writers you can tell, and the joke that the wrestlers say is they've never had sex and they've never been in a fight. So why are they writing about people that have sex and get in fights, right? So yeah, it's cool to be a young punk and whatever, and like the most attractive you're ever going to be. But like, I couldn't agree with you more. You get some, I think, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Batman went away for 7 years and then came back and was,
Well, he did in Chris Nolan's trilogy. He went away for 10 years.
Yeah.
It never happened in the comics. The only time he went away was when he got his back broken by Bane, but it definitely wasn't 7 years. Batman is the kind of guy it's kind of his psychosis. He's a bit of a psycho too. He can't give up the mission, and so why he ultimately ends up driving. I'm a big Batman guy in comics in general.
No, I'm glad that you cleared it up. But yeah, that just sort of that shadow side or whatever.
So we're already at an hour. I'm gonna close this because I'm trying to keep so. But before that, I do want to touch on. By the time this comes out, your mic will already be up and running. Let's talk about that really quick about this new open mic you've got up. That's going to be in Oakland, right?
Yeah, it's at Hoza, Hoza Pizzeria. It's a really cool space. It's an open mic that will lend itself to a showcase at another location, which is Crooked City Cider. A friend of mine, a dear friend, runs the pizza place, and another friend of mine runs the cider house. And I just think there's so much undiscovered talent in the East Bay specifically that like anytime I've gone to an East Bay mic, I get my ass kicked and it's fantastic. So of the networking I've done there, that's kind of what I wanted to do, kind of start my own thing. Cause like,
is this going to be a monthly showcase or like twice a month?
The hope is that it'll be bi-weekly, right? For both. So basically like, in a perfect world, 50 people show up and the best 10 go on the next available showcase, and then we'll just keep rolling.
10, that many comics, huh?
Again, I'm still I don't even know what to pay people. But the point is that like I just think I just have this strange feeling that it can work, for one, and for two, that there's enough people that A, want to show up, and B, are like, yeah, sure, I'll show up and get booked. Because like there are a lot of mics that people just kind of are like, well, here's my 5 minutes. And then there's other mics, like I said, like I don't think I've ever gone to an East Bay mic where someone hasn't either A, kicked my ass, or the level's been raised it's like this comic did okay, this comic did better, and it just rises. So I just think it's like a great opportunity to show off all these really cool people that I know.
So the mic is going to be bi-weekly. It's not a weekly thing.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, you haven't even really started, and I'm sure you're going to figure out what's going to be the
first night is
26th, right?
The 26th, yeah. So it's.
I'm sad I'm going to miss it, man. It sounds like fun.
I'm sad that you're leaving me, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we're just starting this journey.
It's going to be interesting.
Together.
Well, I'm going to come back, but 2.5 months off that's going to be interesting to see what happens. When I get back, I mean, obviously, I'll continue writing and pitching on my own material, but not actually doing it for 2.5 months. We'll see what happens. But so. This is going to be in Oakland starting the 26th, and then the showcase, the first showcase, is that date already set, or you're still going to?
No, it's not. So it's basically we're going to find who we want, and then boom, she's going to set the date.
Yeah.
So she's going to, my partner or my friend is going to be the final say and the one setting it.
Well, what is awesome is that you got a lot of great positive reaction when you announced it on Bacon, which is great because they're definitely it could go the other way on Bacon where people could care less, or even worse, the bitterness really comes out in a text. But what's interesting, you made it very clear, hey, this is a positive room, none of that bitter politic bullshit in this room. I will kick you out myself if that's the case. And maybe there seems to be a hunger for that, just based off of all the positive reaction you got, right?
I believe so. I appreciate you saying that, because I say a lot of stupid shit, and I know that about myself. But in my heart of hearts, I really do believe there's just voices out there that haven't been heard in multitude of ways. And like, I could be wrong, but each audience I've ever been to, there's at least one guy, gal, or trans person that says, I could do that. And months ago, all I did was like, I remember I was dating somebody and she was like, when are you going to get up on stage? Oh, I don't know. And that can turn to the next 50 years of your life. Mm-hmm. So if I'm lucky enough to find one person who's like, I don't know, whoever the next whatever, that would be awesome. Mm-hmm. Or just buddies of mine getting another chance.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
That's all I'm saying,
All right, so Seamus, where can people find out more about, what you got going on stand-up wise or anything else?
So I have a Facebook with my name, Seamus Donohoe. That's super simple. I'm also on Instagram, 755 Doughboy. I have my own podcast, Sort of Sober, on Spotify. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What's the story behind 755 Doughboy?
So I wanted it to be 75 Doughboy because that was my sports number my entire life, and I needed to add an extra 7 because somebody out there is 75. So that's, and then the Doughboy was I was fat pretty much my entire life, and I always ran my mouth. So my brother called me Doughboy really young, thanks to Boys in the Hood, Ice Cube's character in the movie. So that's my childhood nickname is Doughboy. So like I'll be in the marina or in San Francisco or something. Like, hey, what's up, Dough? And I'm like, oh god, like I'm muscular now. Leave me alone. But like, So that's it's like my high school number plus the childhood thing. And I actually really quick, I almost wanted to drop my name and just go by Doughboy because the joke being like that's the one thing show business can't take from me is like where I started, Okay. So.
Well, there you have it, folks. Mystery solved. All right, guys. Thanks for being here, Seamus.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, guys. So thanks for tuning into the podcast. And a big thanks again to the fine folks at Sobriety for letting us record the podcast here and for hooking us up with their delicious boba milk tea drinks. My wife, Chris, and I review boba milk tea spots all over the Bay Area. Believe me when I say that Sobriety is definitely one of the best boba milk tea shops around. Make sure to follow them on Instagram at SAN as in Nancy, and as in Nancy again, A19, that's sana.na19 on Instagram. And if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow/subscribe button and make sure to give us a 5-star rating to give us some algorithm love. Okay? Thanks for listening.